Hey, it's Jeff Sauer here, and this is the fourth and final video of our Google Data Studio tutorial. Now, we've talked about why you should use Data Studio. We've talked about what you can do within the Data Studio program, showing you controls, charts, how you access data. And then we also hammered it home in our last video by talking about the strategy of what it looks like to have an idea and a measurement plan for your organization. In this video, I'm going to show you what it looks like when you put these things together. When you put the reason why you do it, you put the platform into place, and then finally you match it to your strategy, you can do some really cool stuff. So check it out inside this tutorial of Google Data Studio and see what you can do inside the platform.
It's time to see what it looks like when you pull everything together that you can do inside Data Studio. In this video, we're going to specifically answer the question, can you show what a completed report or dashboard looks like inside of Data Studio? And as you know by now, great reports don't just happen, but Data Studio is capable of creating some pretty awesome reports. However, it takes several iterations to get there. And many of these iterations don't require technology at all, they just require thinking. You just need to think through the problem, think about how it's going to work, and think about how it is impacted by your strategy. In other words, measure twice and cut once. Or in a more practical term, highlighted with what we can do with technology around and not using my woodworking analogy, think longer, build shorter. There's no problem with spending more time thinking about your problems, thinking about how you're going to solve them, drawing things down, mapping things out, seeing how it impacts your strategy. There's no problem with doing that. In fact, I would encourage it because it makes your build time actually happen much more quickly because you have thought through the problems and you're not doing nearly as much rework. If you follow a methodical process, you are going to get results. Because remember, it takes several steps to deliver an effective report. Another concept that I want you to grasp is to not be afraid of the analog. Now I'm going to show you my completed dashboard that I've built out in Data Studio in just a moment here, but I want to retrace the steps that it took to get to this completed dashboard. The first thing is it started with a whiteboard in a classroom in Minneapolis. Writing it down, erasing things, adding more columns, adding more items to what we were looking at. And then I created a lo-fi prototype. And as you can see here, this is ugly. It's off-brand. Colors don't really match. The targets are a little bit different. The fonts aren't very great. It's basically just a lo-fi idea as to what was in my head, what I put onto the whiteboard. And my next step, and you could actually skip this step if you wanted to, was to take my ugly prototype and to turn it into something that matched the brand and was more concrete. So basically putting the metrics that I wanted to put in place into stone, or as closely as possible, indicating what was important for this dashboard. And then, after several iterations, several steps into this, we went into Google Data Studio and we created our first lo-fi prototype. Now notice here there's no styling, no colors, no indicators as to whether something's working. We even have some areas that say no data because we didn't have the data connection working properly. But we at least had our format and we at least knew where to go to find the majority of the metrics we were looking at. And after some time and some formatting and doing all the things we teach inside of our Google Data Studio course, we were able to build a pretty awesome and comprehensive dashboard. So how did I build that dashboard? Okay, so we went just from looking at data and a prototype to having a pretty awesome looking dashboard, which I'm going to show you inside of Data Studio in just a minute here. How did we get to that part? Well, our final report is something that took me a few hours to create. And here's what we ended up doing. First of all, it uses the majority of the features within Google Data Studio. For example, we use scorecard functions to show our single metrics. We use custom metrics and the functions within these metrics to create target measurements. So we're showing not just raw numbers, but we're showing how close we are to our targets, much like we show you how to do in our targets lesson. We use bar charts to display progress towards targets. We've connected multiple data sources into one report. For example, we're using Google Analytics. We're using the API connection from Google Analytics, actually multiple Google Analytics accounts to make this work. We're connecting to YouTube Analytics. We're connecting to Google Sheets. And then we're capable of adding data to that Google Sheet through Zapier. We have a date range selector so you can compare data from month to month. We use most of the design elements that you have in Data Studio. We're changing colors. We're changing our graphs. We're displaying the values in the graph. We're doing all kinds of formatting that makes the report easier to read. We can share this report with others using view mode, and we can choose whether or not they can make a copy of it, or if they can just view the report, or we can even embed this on our website and show people what it looks like. And in fact, we probably will be embedding this report on our website. And most importantly, our completed dashboard matches our strategy. We match the data to our strategy as opposed to matching our strategy to the data that we've collected already, or the data that's available, or the data in the tools that we've selected. So let's go in and take a look at our completed dashboard and see how this all works. Okay, so here we are in our new measurement model, and we are in view mode right now, but if we wanted to, we can make an edit to this. But while we're in view mode, I just want to show you how cool this can be. So I'm in an August date range right now. Let's just go back to July and see that this is changing, that this data moves around, it changes, and things get repainted pretty much automatically based on how we have this in place. And we can see how we're doing compared to our targets month over month. Now notice that some of this data may not be perfect. The green piece, the green charts, I've done that manually. So anytime something's over 100%, I edit the green part manually. So you can see this one under 100%, and the chart is still showing it in green. So we'll edit that and fix it. And also notice that the whole value I have in here, it must have been a slip where I put in the one from this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and fix both of these things right now. So I'm going to go into edit mode. And as you can see here, we are looking at our August date range again. And this 200% is where we're off. And we're actually looking at the nurture target here. And all I need to do is simply go after our customer target, which is first-time customers. And we are back on track. Now notice we are at 116% of our target here. And this is green. And the reason why it's green for these charts is basically because I choose that as the primary color. If I wanted to go back to that blue color or any other color, I can just change the color in here. But I've decided to make my targets that I've hit be green. And if you wanted to, you could make the ones that you have not hit, you could make it red. Styling is really an option that anybody can put forth on how they want to do it. Actually, I like how this red is looking. So even though I consider this to be a completed dashboard, as you'll notice, it's definitely always a work in progress. So if you want to make things look better, if you want to utilize more functionality, then you can do it here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and make all these things red. And then what I want to do is I just want to show you, like, so for example, this actual number here, when I look at the data tab, when I look at this number here, this is coming from Google Analytics, from my Jeffalytics Google Analytics account. We're choosing the organic searches metric, and we're filtering it based on organic traffic. And notice here that we have our 24%. This is actually coming as a calculated metric from our data source. And if you have access rights to that data source, you can go in and make edits to it to make it more accurate, or change it based on a moving target you might have month over month. Now, if you notice in here, we don't actually have the ability to edit this data source, and that's because I don't have access to this Google Analytics account. So I'm back in my Data Studio demo account, which does not have access to the Google Analytics account that I'm looking at. And as you can see, this organic target is right here, and as well as right here. So our targets are matching, and that number adds up, as you can see. And if we look forward, we can see we're connecting to YouTube Analytics here. We can see that in this one, we're connecting to a Google Sheet. And basically, our data is pulling in, and it looks pretty darn good to me based on what our targets are, and everything is adding up. And so that's really how our completed dashboard came together. We pull live data from Google Analytics, YouTube, and a Google Sheet, and then a second Google Analytics account as well. We've generated charts. We've used calculated metrics to create our targets and our graphs. And this is really coming together in a way that shows you the pulse of the business. And so we're using almost all the tricks in the book when it comes to Data Studio, and I think it's turning out to be a really awesome looking dashboard, and one that I'm proud to show you and to display as to what you can do when you unlock the full power of Google Data Studio. And this is why I've come to love Google Data Studio, because it's really capable of creating whatever you want it to create. As long as you have your strategy in place, as long as you have a good imagination, you can create some awesome stuff. And so if you like this and you want to see how this is done, I really encourage you to check out my full Google Data Studio course, where we build this dashboard and we explore every function available in Data Studio from the ground up, so that you can confidently build this type of dashboard for yourself, your business, your clients, whoever you're working with, whoever you're working for, you can build them an awesome dashboard using the tricks and tools that we learn inside of our Google Data Studio course. I hope that you've enjoyed this YouTube series where we walk you through an overview and a tutorial of what you can do inside Data Studio, and I look forward to seeing you inside my full Google Data Studio course.